Hello, Rethreading Lives Podcast listeners. We have a very, very important event coming up. As you know, as you listen to this podcast and you get to hear stories of people who've been through hard things and they go through the process and they come out on the other side strong, that is what we want for our survivors at Rethreaded. And on January 23rd from 6 to 8, we are going to be hosting our annual Human Trafficking Awareness Panel. And on this panel, you will get to learn from experts in the field, including survivors, on what is human trafficking, what is its deeper effect on people, and how, as a community, we can come together and work to create opportunities for survivors and also decrease the amount of human trafficking that's happening in our city. So if you are looking for a deeper knowledge of how to make an impact in the world, this is the event you want. It is going to be in person in Jacksonville, Florida, and live stream. So whether you're listening from far or close, you can participate in this event. And just go to rethreaded.com, purchase your tickets, and come and learn how you can make a difference. Welcome to the Rethreading Lives Podcast, where we talk about how to take your threads of harm and through the rethreaded process, transform them into something that actually helps you reach your potential. We'll talk with different leaders in our city and our country and find out what they're doing. You'll walk away from listening to this podcast with useful insights and captivating stories on how you yourself can rethread your life and your business. I'm Kristin Keen, and this is the Rethreading Lives Podcast. Welcome to the Rethreading Lives Podcast Recap Edition, where I am recapping an amazing episode with my dear friend, Kristin Lapinski, who is a hospice nurse. She has been doing this for over 25 years, and she reflects on the rethreaded process in the process of walking people and their families to the end of their time. And it was a fascinating interview. I was a little bit of a mess because my dad was in the hospital at the time having surgery and had some complications. And then my aunt died a couple years ago in hospice. So it just brought up some stuff for me as well. So let's dive into this and let's see what we can learn from Kristin about the rethreaded process.
Knowing that death is part of life is instructive to life, like to living. It is, if it's just part. I want to live well and I want to die well. We talk about
so good.
There's a kind of the concept of a good death, which clearly we don't get to decide, right? But we can at least strive for it. We can make plans. I mean, people make birth plans, and then sometimes people, things go awry, and you get all upset that your birth plan didn't work out or wasn't exactly what you wanted it to be. But it's the planning part that is helpful. And I feel that way with death as well, like planning things ahead of time. And that's a lot of what we can help with in terms of hospice care, but just in general, understanding that at some point the unthinkable will happen. It helps your family. It helps you just be more at ease, but it helps your family to not be in crisis when that is happening or has happened.
Oh, this is so good. Because this to me is about being intentional. Like the most successful people that I have found are so intentional with their life. And I'm not talking about success. Yes, and their businesses are successful, but also their relationships are successful. They have good relationship with their partners, with their families, with their business, the people they're running the business with, like because of their intentionality. And I love what she said is that knowing you're going to die is part of living a great life. And planning for it and having open conversation about it allows you to keep your sphere open and space for you to keep living out your purpose, space for you to stay connected in your relationships. Because I've seen both ways. I've seen where there's extremely poor planning, puts a family in crisis, and then it eventually, even like in the little things like the will and the money, it just tears family apart. And this idea that when we accept that we're going to die and do preparations for it, it helps you and your family stay connected. I mean, me and my mom have had this conversation about what's going to happen and what she wants, and having the red notebook with all her information in it to make sure that when it happens, like we're all prepared and we can have access, and I'm her power of attorney. And I have found actually so much peace in that. It was really hard for me and my mom to start that conversation. Both of us were like sobbing, but then like we got through the hard part and we're making a plan, and now it's so much easier to talk about. And much more practical, and brings me a lot of peace because I know that whatever happens to my mom, I will be empowered to take care of her. That feels good.
If what I'm seeking is to live peacefully and die gracefully, which I am, then I have to do some work. I have to allow that fact to influence my life. And, slippery slope because of privilege and all of these things. But, the carpe diem philosophy, I certainly think holding that is okay. We cannot always carpe diem, but like that mindset of, don't wait to like live your life till you retire, and those kinds of things. Like, I just mean that it can influence the choices we make and the way that we live, and the fear that we carry, the fear of death is in everything. And we all have it, I'm sure, in anyone who's been to therapy, surely has talked about that in some capacity.
You have to let the fact that you're going to die inform you of how you live today. And I was actually reading a book on time management, and the title of it is something like 5,000, blah, 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 blah. And this idea that we only have a limited amount of time. And when our starting place is we're going to die one day, it helps back us in to living a very intentional life. Because they talked about the hamster wheel we get on, the efficiency trap, right? Where we become more efficient, and then we're able to take on more work, and then we become more efficient, we're able to take on more work, and we become more efficient at answering emails, so then we get more emails, and we're able to be more efficient. And suddenly our life is still filled with things that might not necessarily mean we're being intentional with our time. And when we flip-flop and make our starting point, I'm going to die, how do I want to live? It changes so many things. I wonder, maybe I'm going to try that experiment for the next 30 days. I'm going to die, so today I'm going to choose to live without fear and say the things that are in my heart. What would that do to us? If anyone wants to do that experiment with me, please let me know.
Thinking of a friend that I was with, and it is such a gift to move past the humor stage of coping, right? Like, because that's, a lot of times we cope with humor, and then to say, but okay, and also P.S., like, this is a really sacred time. I don't want to, I want us to like be in it, and and what do you want to say to your wife and daughter that are here? Like, what are your thoughts? And then it just pours out, and it's beauty all over the place, but like, it's just inviting, right? Like, and not that, you might have done that anyway, but it's such a gift to me if I get to be there to like witness and just whatever, to kind of open that little space to say, this is also an opportunity. And with experience, the gift of 19 years is that I can vision and anticipate better, right? So I can see what's going to happen, days from now, and I can see, this is actually the time that we need to, I don't want to wait to have this conversation, or those that's something I've really been grateful for.
I'm watching myself watch this cry. So I started crying because it just reminds me so much of my aunt. So when I'm watching this again from this perspective and watching Kristin, it's like the gift of experience, right? That she's able to come into a very hard situation with a lot of emotions of families and like facilitate it and create space for the people around her to hold life and to hold death in the same moment, right? To hold the reality that this person they love isn't going to be there anymore. And this is a sacred time to say how you feel and to have someone help you hold those. So I guess that's the gift of community, right? That's what we do at Rethreaded, right? Let's give you space to heal from those, the darkest of the dark, so we can hold joy with you. And again, if we could learn in our life to kind of reframe the hard things, like Kristin was saying, like it's hard and dark and it hurts, and gosh, it's so sacred. And it's an opportunity to connect and say things and to stay connected to the ones we love. Oh, it's so good. I encourage you to watch this whole episode because Kristin has so much wisdom from her experience.
There's a hospice physician, Ira Byock, I think is his name, and he wrote a book called The 4 Things That Matter Most. So it was just like people, I guess, always asked him, what do people say? What do you do at the end of life? And it comes down to 4 things. And it was, will you forgive me? I forgive you. Thank you. And I love you. And like to have, I know, cry because yes, but again, that perspective, like that's what I want in my life. Like,
I am so predictable. I am sitting here watching this clip crying again, thinking about my family and my dad and my stepmom and my mom. Oh my gosh. I mean, that's all that I want to say to I forgive you. Will you forgive me? Thank you. And I love you. That's it, isn't it? Those 4 things. Again, I wonder if you start saying to yourself, I'm going to die. How am I going to live today? If that would keep informing those and maybe those 4 things of I forgive you, will you forgive me, thank you, I love you, would be how we navigate relationships. I don't know. Y'all, this one's a hard one for me. Let's finish the clip.
Like, I want to do that all the times that I can. I want to be reminded. I don't want to think about death at all times, but I want to be reminded, that in fact, this is it. This is life now, and we don't get it back, and none of us gets out of here alive.
I love that. None of us get it back, and none of us make it out of here alive. Gosh, maybe that's also being middle-aged. That it just gives you this weird time. Again, enough time has gone in the past that the future looks different. And when you're young, you never think about that, right? But now, as you look forward, death is closer the older you get. And maybe that's where some of our wisdom comes from as we get older. All these experiences we've had and a refining of what is important. And yeah, it is the art of learning how to hold life. And maybe as we put this idea that, I'm going to die, it almost helps relieve the fear of putting our heart out there or getting hurt or taking those risks or getting stuck in bitterness and blame and shame, because it comes down to those, I forgive you, will you forgive me, thank you, I love you. So again, I'm going to encourage you to watch these episodes. It is so good. Again, it must touch something deep inside me because I'm watching a clip and I'm crying. I cried in the clip and I'm crying again watching the clip. So clearly this touches on some deep things. So be prepared for this one because Kristin is a beautiful guide into this. And we have so much to learn from her and for all those precious people that she helped guide. So make sure you subscribe, shop at Rethreaded, and keep doing the work, lovelies. Thank you.